Hey, travel buddies, and welcome to the Layover Lounge, where every layover is a new story. I'm your host, Keisha C, and this episode is brought to you by kcrumbtravel.com. kcrumbtravel.com is your go-to for all of your Caribbean vacation needs. Check us out after this show. Today, we're talking about something that hits home for a lot of us. We're going to go from the boardroom to beachfront. Today, we're balancing leadership, legacy, and leisure. Heavy on the leisure. If you are that busy parent, community leader, high level executive, this episode is for you. We're sitting down talking to Dr. Monique Dawkins. She's going to talk to us about balancing some much needed self care with continuing being excellent in our leadership roles. Travel buddies, help me welcome to the lounge, Dr. Monique Dawkins.
Hey,
Hey,
thank you.
love.
I'm so glad to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for lounging with us today. How are you feeling?
Feeling good, relaxed.
Awesome. So before we get all off into the boss that you are and a certified leadership development coach, can you share with the travel buddies what was the last beautiful destination that you experienced?
Mm. The last vacation I was on was a few months ago. I was actually in Roatan, Honduras. So that was a beautiful birthday getaway, like about a little 5 day, 4 night situation.
Awesome. Was that a family trip?
It was a girls' trip. And so it was just me and a few friends and just enjoying perfect weather, beachfront, good activities. Loved it.
I love that. Okay. So we'll get back to the beachfront, my favorite place, shortly. But let's head over to the boardroom. Let's talk about that. You are the author of You Know Best 10 Rules to Elevate Your Leadership Power. What inspired you to write this book, and how does that reflect some of the challenges you may have faced in your leadership role?
Yeah, thank you. Great question. Yeah, I was really excited. I published that book, and it was a labor of love. It really came to fruition just me reflecting on my decades as an executive leader and really my grind. How I made it to a senior leadership role is all really captured, bundled up, and creatively reflected and depicted in that book. So it really follows the journey of a fictional character, Madison. But in reality, it really, there's stories that I faced, right? And challenges that I saw on the day to day as I was on my, journey to rise from being an administrative assistant to get to be a senior director that I am today.
Right.
So it's all the blood, sweat, tears, drama, and all of that. And the best part of it is it does incorporate a lot of helpful coaching tips because, as you mentioned, I am a certified coach now. And so I wanted to take a lot of my lessons learned, share some of my advice, but then more importantly, say, how can you do it in a way that serves you because you know best?
Right, exactly. I love that. So I heard you mention the grind. Let's talk a little bit about that. I heard you say, were you certified medical assistant?
I actually started off just being a medical front desk, secretary, if you will, in an oncology office. So I worked for Memorial Sloan Kettering and started at the bottom, right? And so that's where I started.
Right. People tend to forget sometime about the grind where it starts. Looks good at the top, but there is certainly a path to that. So let's
Oh
just
yeah.
talk a little bit about some of the people, like the audience here, wear many hats. We're busy parents, busy trying to juggle a leadership role. What does burnout look like for you, and how do you know when it's starting to creep in?
hmm Yeah, I mean, I first and foremost am a mom of two beautiful children, 9 and 12, and a wife. And again, as I mentioned, my day job is, working as a senior leader in healthcare, but then I also freelance and have my own coaching and consulting business. So when you talk about burnout and you talk about busy,
Yeah.
certainly that's me. So I really think it's so important to prioritize balance in life and to determine what that means for you. It's not a cookie cutter term, and it, certainly there's no just formula that just works for everyone. So for me, travel is how I mitigate burnout. And so I think it's just always important for me to either have a vacation in the pocket, meaning it's planned, paid for, and just waiting for me to, participate and get there. Or I actually mitigate burnout by planning my vacations, right? And just like the excitement of like, where might I explore next? And that helps me take my mind off of the crazy grind or a million emails or just things that you can't control, but they're just kind of like, you might want to ruminate on them. So for me, that's how I find the balance. And burnout is a really important topic. Actually, that's the topic that I wrote my doctoral dissertation on. Is how even frontline folks that worked in healthcare at the time, how do they cope with burnout? So burnout is something that's been on my mind a long time, and I think stress is something that we all face. So I'm glad you asked me that.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that just looking around at other people because sometimes we are so consumed of what our journey is and our path. But if you look around at the leaders around you, what can we do to avoid some of that? You say that you typically have a vacation on the books. I love that.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
what about somebody who hasn't quite vacationed yet, or they haven't even thought that travel was accessible for them or even a thing for them? What can they
Yeah.
do to mitigate some of their burnout?
Absolutely. I certainly think community and networking is so important, no matter what level of leadership someone is in. I just think personally, it's so important to be able to say, I'm going to go to happy hour once a month with some of the people that I enjoy or appreciate being around. Just get that positive energy, right? Or I'm going to take a day trip somewhere local. I'm going to tell you, COVID had me in a chokehold because, like I said, I love to travel. And guess what? I couldn't do? I couldn't travel.
Right.
So, I hopped in the car and that's how I found, the acetique on the Eastern Shore for the first time because I was forced to stay local. So, again, I think just getting out and exploring your local surroundings, making the time to hang and, chill with friends, certainly concerts or just like local things. If it's a wine festival, if it's, I think there's no excuse not to just, just be. And it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. You could even go meet up with a friend and go for a walk and say, we're not going to talk about work, but we're just going to be, and we're going to be out in the sun and enjoy this day. So I just think prioritizing self is so important.
For sure. I certainly agree with that. Before we can even come to some solutions, which those you gave are amazing, and I totally agree. But we have to be aware. Some people are not even aware that they are head over heels, knee deep. What would you say to somebody out there, or how will they know if they're over functioning in their
Hmm.
leadership role?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So one of the things that I'm really really proud of that I've done in some of my work background is I designed a high potential leadership development program, and so there were a lot of leaders that were designated by the organization as hey, you have strong potential, you're high performing, all these things, and that's the perfect formula for I'm going to work 24 hours a day. I'm going to hustle and grind and not breathe and just do and do, 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 do. So, what was important to me when I was designing that program is a lot around self awareness, to your point, is how can you take a beat and just kind of really do an evaluation, a self evaluation, a pulse check, if you will, as to what's your quality of life right now. So that was something that was built into the program to say, like, okay, let's stop. Let's not think about work. Let's not think about the things that we have to do or the things that we want to do. Let's just think about where are we mentally, right? And so I just think that was something that was important for me to encourage other leaders to do, is to take that time to do some reflection, to do some journaling, to take the opportunity to actually say, I had all of these visions of where I wanted to be and I'm working really hard. Am I getting anywhere? Is that really what I want? What's my purpose? What's my passion? Right? And so all of that I think is so important because, to your point, when you're hustling and when you're grinding really hard, you're not really thinking practically. You're
Mhm.
thinking tactic wise, right? Like, I'm going to do this task. I'm going to knock these 10 things out, and you're not taking a moment to smell the roses or even determine if you want to be around those roses. So I think self awareness, reflection, and just taking the time and space to reevaluate if needed is so key and so important. So I built that into that program, and it's something that I also built into my life.
That's awesome. You mentioned just the process of self care, being self aware. Does that ever end or shave off for a leader?
Never, never. In fact, I think you need it more. There's a lot of pressures. The higher you grow, just like, they say the more money you make, the more problems, but the more, the higher title you have, the more responsibilities you have. And it could be a lot. It could feel like a lot of pressure. And so I think it's even more important to take that time to assess and evaluate when you get higher up. And I'm going to tell you something. A lot of executives don't. And that's why, they looking stressed out. And some of them are, some of them recognize it, or some of them are being informed by others that work with them, right? Like, you're not acting like the same. You're not the same person anymore. And so I think it's important to receive feedback, as a leader. And I myself love feedback, and not everybody does, not every leader does. But I think it's important to see, how do people see you? And not when you're relaxed, not at, 9 o'clock when you got your feet kicked up in a glass of wine, but how are you reacting to a situation that occurs in a 2 p.m., executive meeting, right? Are you blowing up? Are you flipping the pages on the book? Are you being combative? Are you, just not being collaborative and who you are, because you're just so overwhelmed, because you're not taking a moment to breathe, because you're not realizing that you're forgetting to delegate, you're forgetting to, really share the wealth, you're forgetting to ask for help as a leader, which is so important. The bigger the title you have, the more help you need. So all of these things are so important. And so no, it never turns off. In fact, you need even more the higher up you go.
For sure. To quote the great Biggie, small, more money, more problems.
Yes.
Sometimes it's a higher level of things. So whatever you were already managing might just be on a much higher level at this time. So that self care, that balance, that self awareness, super
Mhm.
important. Okay, so let's shift gears just a bit. We're going to
Mm.
go now from the boardroom to the beach, my favorite spot. And we're
Yeah.
going to do this a bit of a Bronx tale, if you will. Monique is from the Bronx, New York. I read
Mhm.
somewhere that you didn't see many Black educators growing up until you landed at Howard University. I
Mhm.
imagine that was a whole culture shock for you there.
Mm.
So, what role did exposure, or maybe lack thereof,
Mhm.
play in your view of travel and how you experienced it?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yes, I think I might have shared a little bit of that in my book, that I never had a Black educator until I went to Howard, which is so interesting because I went to public school, from K through 8, and only went to Catholic school for high school. But all of my teachers, even in the Bronx, even in Northeast Bronx, were all white people, or other races, etc. And did great. But all that to say, I think that it was just like a nice awakening, a nice, opportunity to see just such smart people that, could relate to you, that, want to uplift you, that want to inspire you, that want to see you do well. All of that I think is great. I think when it comes to just travel, though, yeah, I kind of grew up, with kind of the basic travel, right? Like, my mom is always really proud to say, we always went away for spring break and for like a summer trip, and we went to the Poconos, because I'm from the Bronx, so the Poconos is in Pennsylvania, not too far away, a car ride away. And so she's right. We did consistently have our trips to the Poconos, and we went to different lodges, treetops, Shawnee. I remember all these different little spots that we used to go to in the timeshare. And so that was like, I got to go to the pool, got to do the game room, got to, do the sledding, do the fun stuff. So that local travel, or the expectation to go somewhere, was always in me, because we always took our car trips up to the Poconos. But my first plane ride, my first real getaway, I'll say, was when I graduated from high school. And I actually chose to not go to the prom. And I asked my mom if she could pay for me to go to Jamaica instead,
Okay.
because my friend's family was going to Jamaica, I guess maybe as her graduation gift. And I was like, well, I'd rather spend that money on that, right? Because I wasn't that, pressed about going to the prom personally. And so that was the first time that I got to like go on the airplane and go somewhere tropical. And I still remember it to this day. Like, it was all inclusive. and we got the little bands. And I remember in Jamaica, you can drink at 18. So I was 18 at the time, but my friend was only 17. Her birthday was in a few weeks. So like I got the adult band and she got the child band, and it was like a candy striper band at that. So I remember, I remember saying, your band don't look like my band. And so I didn't drink or anything, but it was just like that experience, right? Like this taste of like, people do this. This is nice. So anyway, I'll pause there. But that's like that transition of how I got from the small time local travel to eventually getting that taste of international travel.
I'm excited just hearing you even retell that story, just reliving that because people need to know that. I mean, you work with what you have because my mom did the same thing for us. We were in California, so we went to Disneyland, Knott's Berry Farm, a few hours down the
Mm-hmm.
way, but it was a big deal, something to look forward to. So
Mm-hmm.
that leads me to the legacy part of it all, of travel. How does legacy building, or do you view travel as legacy building for you and your family in particular?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I really do. I think having a legacy, in general, I think is so important. And everything that I do it from the perspective of I just want my kids to see that it can be done. And then I want them to beat me 5 times, right? Over like to do things that I'm like, oh, I wish I could have did that. But all that to say, when it comes to travel, I'm really big on experiences. And for the last probably 5 years solid, my family, we've kind of been focused on experiences for gifts as opposed to, just all the tchotchkes and the things like that. So like, especially for Christmas, for the past few years, we've either been cruising or we're going away somewhere international. And my kids are here for it, right? Like they've gotten a taste of that travel bug and they love getting on the airplane and they love the experiences. And they're learning that like, do I want to have 50 boxes under the tree of things that I'm not even going to remember what they are in 2 weeks? Or do I want to go on this phenomenal vacation, remember the countries I went to, remember the things that I did there, and know that I want to go away again, right? And I think it really expands mindset, right? Because I remember for spring break, maybe 3 years ago, I took my family to Austria. And I had a friend who she was living in Austria. Her husband was in the military. And she was like, oh, Monique, you should come with the family. And I was like, well, don't invite my family anywhere international because we're really coming. she was like,
Don't play.
she was like, I'm like, don't play. Right. So she was like, no, I'm for real. You should come. So anyway, it was great. We went and stayed like, for about maybe 4 or 5 days with her in Austria. And then because we were abroad and, me, I got to expand. We went to Budapest after for a few days. And so again, the kids were just like, this is so cool, right? Like they were just taking it up. There was no beach. There was no, right? It was a different experience for them. And I started talking to them about study abroad, right? I explained to them that when I was in college, I was just always on the grind. So I was so focused on graduating on time that that wasn't a thought for me at that time to think to study abroad. But here I go, speaking of legacy, infusing in them as we're walking through the streets of Austria, like, you know what? Here's my story. Mommy didn't do study abroad, but I did get to go visit one of my girlfriends who did study abroad in Spain. And I told them how amazing it was when I just visited her for a week. And now my son, like maybe 2 months ago, we were talking about going somewhere. And he was like, I've been thinking about where I want to go for when I do study abroad. And I just like, look, he's only 9,
And
but they
they're thinking.
listen.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. They pick it up. So again, that's legacy, right? Like already, what does that imply? That implies that he's going to college because he understands that the study abroad, experience is a part of the college experience to be able to learn and be educated abroad. So already that speaks and soaks of legacy to me. And that's through travel by exposing the kids to different just places, people, all the things.
For sure, for sure. So, what advice would you give some working parents just trying to survive now that they have a moment to look up? How can they start? Because everything doesn't have to be international. Can you start small? What's your
Absolutely. Everything is about a mix of things, right? And I am a fan of I don't care how much you make, you can travel. And I know I'm talking to the right person, the expert at, you said, what's your budget? And you're going to make it happen for them because that's what you do. And I think, you can start small. Florida, you can go to Miami, you can go to California, right? Like me being from New York, my son, he loved California. That's probably in his top 5. We've been to many countries, but California was a vibe for him, okay? Because California is so different than New York City, right? Not that he knows New York. He probably knows Maryland more than New
Maybe
York,
do.
but it's so different. It's just the palm trees. Like, so again, that experience for him as a child was an amazing vacation. And we did Disneyland and all the things. We did Santa Barbara. We did, Santa Monica, so all that to say, that is phenomenal. So don't let me get you only caught up on international, to your point. Travel, just get out there, see what's different, and that might take a smaller budget to be able to do those things. But really, what I think it's about is just really budgeting and realizing that you have to. You don't have to, but I think it's helpful to plan in advance when you're trying to travel. So we're in 2025 right now. And you might say, I don't have any money to do anything but just pay my bills right now. And that's fine. But what can you maybe not splurge on this year so that next June you can go somewhere, right? Would be what my advice would be to that working parent, or hell, a single person who's like, look, I'm just trying to manage what I got going on. So I tell my friends all the time, I'm like, look, you know how you spent that $20 for that one sandwich on Thursday, and then you had that $15 for breakfast on that other day, and that $8 for that coffee. Well, that was like $55. And if you save that $55 every week, for 6 months, you could go somewhere. And now they got the what is it, Afterpay, the 4Pay, the 10 pay. They have all these things that didn't exist before. And again, I'll bring it back to wonderful travel agents like yourself, Keisha, who is like, tell me your budget. Let me tell you, let me help you get where you're going to go. And let me get you on this payment plan. So you know how they had layaway back in the day? They have that for vacations, y'all. Get up on it.
And they do, and they do. And that's a big part of being intentional. You do talk about that, and you know best about being intentional about what type of leader you want to be. You can obviously be intentional about prioritizing vacation and self care. That just opens to the next segment of giving yourself permission to relax.
Mm,
You can have all the money and the leadership role, the accolades, but if you don't even know how to chill, like relax your mind. So
mhm,
what does leisure actually look like for you? Is that spa days, no emails, or what's
mm.
good for you?
Yeah, I agree. It is so important to just unwind and to have that time. And I'm going to tell you, it's looked different over the years. Like obviously, depending on where I am in life, like before I had kids versus when I have kids versus all the things. But I think in current state, I definitely think spa days are phenomenal. They can be pricey, but they're fantastic. I love to try and plan and incorporate a good spa treatment, like if I'm going on a cruise. So I like to do the double up, because if I'm on a family trip, then if I know I'm going to treat myself to a spa service one of the days on the trip, well, that's my 1 or 3 hours that I get to just relax and just be on my own. So it's like a vacation in the vacation. So
Mhm.
those who have, kids, that when you're on vacation with kids, sometimes you don't feel like you're on vacation. So how can you still carve out that me time? I have to say I'm really really lucky in that, like, my husband and I, we are like a dynamic duo, and I feel like he's a fantastic partner in that whether I'm on vacation or not, I could tag out. I could say, next Saturday I want to go do such and such, right? And it could be somewhere local. And he's like, okay, I got it, right? And I get the opportunity to take that girls trip, to take a couples only trip where my husband and I get to go away and the kids stay home, and family vacation. So I think a variety of types of getaways and travel and all those things are really, really important. So yeah, all that to say, for me, I do need time to just come down, to have a moment to not think about work, and to do things that I think are exciting, which could be for me reading a book. Just saying I'm going to sit here for this 1 hour and read a book and not think about anything else. That's helpful for my mental health and just to keep me just grounded.
That's interesting because when I do consultations with some of the travel buddies out there, I am very intentional. How do you want to feel? What's your vibe? Like, what do you want to see when you open your eyes? So I heard you mention the difference when you're vacationing with kids and your family. Can you
Mm-hmm.
talk to some of maybe our male travel buddies out there that are the leaders who are so caught up in working? What
Mm-hmm.
advice would you give the male leader to take a picture of the whole and it's okay for the man to relax a bit and what that does for family bonding?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's so important for, men who are had a household or even just, just on an equal grind with their wives or partners to take the time to realize that separate is okay, that you still should I think traveling separately is encouraged and together, right? So I purposefully, as you said, I have a love of travel and I'm going to be out in these streets having a good time. But what I realize is that, my husband is not as proactive about it, right? Like when we travel, he enjoys it, but he's not the person to say, I'm thinking about I want to go on this trip in this time frame, right? So I do that for him. So I encourage my husband to get away, to say, where are your male friends, where are your male relatives? You guys should go on a guys trip, again, local or distance, whether you going to South Dakota because you have a relative who lives out there and you guys are going to just lay low and eat and talk and hang out, or you're going on an international trip, to Panama or whatever, wherever the case may be. So I think it's so important as a wife to encourage, husband. And I also think for the males, it's important for you to say that that's what you need, right? Like just because a man wants to be able to get away and have that time for self doesn't mean they don't want to be with you, right, as their partner. So I think it's about, having that trust in the relationship and recognizing it's a different vibe, when you're on a guys only trip than when you're on a girls only trip. And I think both are needed. And that, when I talk about that balance and what does that look like, I think that's important in all relationships.
Yeah, that's part of giving yourself permission to relax. So, ladies, let that man go on his fella's
Yeah.
trip and he'll be a better person for his job, for you, for the family, for everybody. So, you
Hmm.
heard that from an expert.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're going to switch it up a little bit and we're going to step into the lightning round. So, this is
Mm,
basically a rapid fire type of thing. You tell me first thing that comes to mind.
okay.
Um, a must pack item for travel, no matter where you're going.
Bathing suit.
Here we're going to Alaska. Okay. Um,
They're gonna have a pool somewhere, indoor pool
somewhere
maybe.
for sure. Dream destination you have yet to visit.
Well, I'm gonna say Ghana. To be very specific, because I do have a trip to Africa coming up. So I was going to say Africa as a whole, but I'm going to South Africa in a few weeks. So I'm going to say Ghana is still on my list of somewhere that I really do want to go.
I love that. Circle back after you come back. We definitely want to talk about that. Songs on the travel playlist. What we bumping?
Oh, I like to kick it old school. Oh, actually, this is so fun. My shirt right now says "Hustle, travel, listen to '90s R&B music, minded my business."
Minding my
90s R&B music. Oh my goodness, that gets me through the plane ride. I might like start jamming to some Drew Hill, take it to the Jagged Edge, get to some Jodeci, right? Like, where are we going? What are we doing? So I dig in my 90s R&B bag big when I'm traveling. All of a sudden, I'm just like, remember that song? It's just
and
a
like
vibe. So,
right, like vacation music is personal. It's the vibe you want to be on. Okay.
mm-hmm.
Beachfront or mountain escape.
Beachfront. A mountain vacation. Let me think about it. I would never probably want to go on a mountain vacation, but yeah, that's not me. I mean, I think it just feels like what are we doing up there? I mean, I understand the views are going to be nice, but like I do enjoy a good like water, like I'm a water baby. I want the beach, I want the pool. But I will say that, and I'm not supposed to be talking because it's lightning around, but I'm just trying to say that I'm probably always going to be more prone to want to go somewhere that there's like nice water or waters to be had. Um, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay, sounds good. One thing that leadership and leisure have in common.
You can make it what you want it to be. So what I mean by that is I think as a leader, it doesn't have this like, some people put this pressure that because they have this title or because they're doing this job or because they're, they think people are depending on them. That means you have to work 100 hours a week. That means you have to be overwhelmed. That means you have to like have all the answers. No, you don't. Just like with travel, that means that you have to have at least $10,000 to go away. You have to have at least, all these expectations. No, you don't. You can travel with as little bit of money or as much money as you want. And for me, I like a balance of I don't want to say quantity over quality because my quantity still has to have an element of decent quality, but I'm not a 5-star girl because then that means I could probably only travel one good trip a year. And I want about 6, 7 trips a year. So what I'm saying is, again, it all comes back to the balance. And I think leadership and travel, very similar. You can make it what you want it to be.
And I do want to speak to that particular travel buddy out there listening, like, yeah, it sounds good, but I don't have the time or I don't have the money or these kids, they need that. But really, I hope that you have gotten from this conversation that no matter where you are in your leadership role, whether you are a top level executive or you're just starting out, it's just priorities. It's what you focus on will grow. So I hope
Yeah.
that you are focusing a bit, of course, being the best. Black excellence is what we want in
Hmm.
leadership, but we
Yeah.
also want to know that you are supported, that you are well traveled, you have eaten some different food and just gotten some different culture.
Yeah, and I do want to just sneak in there. I think we train our children on what to expect too. And what I mean by that is that because my children see that they get to participate in travel sometimes,
Mhm.
mommy goes on trips by herself sometimes, mommy and daddy go away sometimes, they are already expected. So it's not like they feel like they're being cheated. It's not like they're like, wait, what is this? That's the norm. I can say, oh, mommy's getting ready to go away next weekend. Where are you going? Oh, I'm going on a girls trip with, a few of my friends, just for a few days. Okay, I hope you have a good time, mommy. Right? Because they're trained. They know they're going to get their chance. And they also know that mommy's better for being able to have that balance. And so again, I think we don't have to feel guilty as moms. We put so much guilt on us like, my husband's going to be overwhelmed or my partner or my mom's going to watch the kids and my mom's going to be whatever. It's just about finding the balance cuz I definitely do that. My mom tends to watch the kids for us sometimes when we go away. So I always prioritize. I'll make sure I'm going to have a trip with my mom at some point during the year. So she gets to go away too. So don't feel guilty. Just, spread the love and teach people how you need what you need and how you need to be treated. And that includes travel.
And that's a good point. I do want to touch on feeling guilty because there is a level of guilt that a lot of people feel, even when everything is going well. So, what would you say to that leader that, especially a black leader that feels like if I'm gone too long, will I still have a job? Will someone do this perform better than me? Or
Hmm.
just, oh, they're short staffed and you feel that guilt of, I can't leave them like this. What would you say to
Yeah.
that person that's holding them back?
Yeah, I've learned, and if you read the book, you'll know that it's a revolving door. I think a job is a job, right? And what I mean by that is I personally give a 1,000% to anything that I do, but I also know that a decision could be made tomorrow that's not personal, but the business will continue to run. So all that to say, I think as long as you're doing your best while you're there, you're supporting your teams while you're there, you are helping them to be independent while you're there, then they will be good too. I mean, I actually published an article, I think last year, talking about springing forward and helping leaders to just realize that the best way you can help your teams is to actually let them be in charge while you're there, right? And that will help you feel confident that when you're not there they can operate and do the things that they need to do, and that will help them also feel confident. So at the end of the day, I know sometimes as leaders we think like we're gods, like what's going to happen if I'm not here? Same ish, different day. That's what's going to happen. And I have a solid faith personally. So I think if you go away and you come back and your job is not there, then there's something bigger and better waiting for you anyway.
Okay, and on that note, I want to thank you so much for joining and lounging with us in the Layover Lounge today. Please be sure to check out Monique's book, You Know Best, Your 10 Rules to Elevate Your Leadership Power. I got mine on Amazon.com. Can you share with the audience where they can pick up and where they can find you on across different socials?
Absolutely. Yeah. So you can find the book on Amazon.com, on BarnesandNoble.com. You can go to MoniqueDawkins.com to find out, about me and more about the book. Also, Better Equipped Solutions. That's where I accept executive coaching, life coaching clients, and leadership development consulting work. So yeah, you can certainly look for me there. I'm on Instagram as well.
Awesome. And if you forget any of that, head over to kcrumtravels.com. We can definitely give you more information about Dr. Monique Dawkins. Thank you for joining us today. That is a wrap for this episode of the Layover Lounge. I have been your host, Keisha C. I thank you for lounging with us. Please be sure to share, keep your people aware. Make sure you subscribe, comment, follow us here at the Layover Lounge. And until next time, safe travels.